China is preparing for war. Preparing for war not because China wants war, but China knows that in order to avoid war, you must be prepared for war. So there's a famous line in Sun Tzu Bing Fa, The Art of War, which says, 无事其不攻，是无有所不可知攻也. In other words, do not plan on the assumption that the other side will not attack. Plan on the basis that you can withstand all attacks. Then there will be peace. Now, interestingly, this statement from Sun Tzu was quoted by Medvedev, the Russian Prime Minister, who has also been reading Sun Tzu. There are three main domains of warfare which I think China is worried about. Now, I don't belong to the Five Eyes. I'm not in government, so I'm just watching and trying to understand and make sense of what I read and see. One is, of course, nuclear warfare. China says it will not be the first to use nuclear weapons. So it must have a deterrent capability. The US has been quite determined to deny China a counter-strike capability. Because if it's just conventional warfare, repeated scenario war gaming by the Indo-Pacific Command, by RAND, shows that in a conventional war around Taiwan, the South China Sea, America cannot prevail. So they must be able to threaten nuclear weapons. But if China can threaten back, then that threat is blunted. So China has a few hundred warheads. America has many thousands. And China is thinking of putting the ICBMs on high-speed rail. It's about the same length as the carriage. But they can't be sure because a few hundred, you can tag every one of them. Yes, you have tunnels, but I know where the tunnels open and where they close. And I can close them. China's strategic bombing is very backwards, relatively speaking. So they are very dependent on strategic submarines, which is why the South China Sea is so important. It's not about navigation or shipping. At the core of it are nuclear submarines. You know, in Sanya, they have a facility like you see in James Bond movie, deep down below the submarines come out. The Americans cover the seabed. They have all kinds of drones, seabed arrays, surveillance to monitor all the Chinese submarines. And the Chinese harass American submarines and encourage the fishermen to fish out American drones. They pay much more for a drone than for a tuna. And see. So there's a game going on which is not much reported, but which those who are interested follow. But just to be sure, China will increase its warheads to maybe 1,000, maybe more. So that whatever you do, you can't take out all my counter-strike capability. And without that counter-strike capability,